The title of this class is going to be To Know Thyself. And if you saw the flyer, it said to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. To know thyself is to know God. How many can relate to that or feel something? Okay. And I was sharing with you how I came across this information, and it's just a process of my own desire to grow and to learn and understand. And so basically I'm going to be working from two sources. One is Dr. Hawkins' book on Power versus Force, which you may have seen or heard of. If you've not read the book, I strongly recommend it. He's written several books, but this is his most popular book that people can grasp and understand. A lot of his other books are a little more difficult, like this one here, a little more difficult to understand. But once you get, let's put it this way, I'll be honest with you, the first time I read this, I think I understood maybe a third of it. But I said to myself, there's something in here, I gotta figure it out what it is.
What's the author's name again?
It's taken me, pardon?
What's the author's name?
Well, I'll pass it around, Power versus Force. Dr. Hawkins, David R. Hawkins. And it took me years to understand what I know now, and I'm still learning. I'm even prepared for this class. I was able to learn a lot. So, I want to start off by talking about this. What is it? Does anybody have any idea what I'm trying to talk about here?
Smiley face. Smiley face.
What's the smiley face represent?
Evolution and getting to the tipping scale of whatever for the next jump in evolution.
Okay, okay. Well, this is the starting point, and what this is really trying to represent, and all as I pictured all three of these things, I'm going to talk about them briefly. Is I'm going to talk about the oneness. How many of you feel connected to the oneness? Raise your hand. How many of you know you're connected to the oneness? Raise your hand. How many of you don't care if you're connected to the oneness? No, I'm joking. That's a joke. It's the oneness. It's the collective consciousness or unconsciousness, as Carl Jung said. It is those of us who are all connected in our higher selves. How many of you believe that? Okay. And if you don't know, understand that, we're going to talk about that some. I have 4 little examples here. One of the most popular ones is fish. You ever seen a school fish? You got 1,000 fish in the ocean, and all of a sudden one of them sees danger and moves. What happens to the rest of them? Now the question is, did the other one just see the other one and go, oh, we're all moving? Or have you noticed how they all seem to move at the same time? You ever noticed that? Go watch some documentaries on fish, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But they somehow seem to be, there's some kind of connection between them individually. This represents the internet. Notice how we're all connected through our little network, or the World Wide Web, as they say. And this, I think, is a manifestation of our desire to be connected to the collective consciousness, the oneness. I think that we manifested this rather gracefully, I think, too. It's amazing, because the thing grew. It's bigger than, it appears that no one is really controlling it. And those who try to control it are not really able to do so. Yes,
did you notice that the United Nations now says that having an internet connection is a human right? I just read that article. That came
say it again.
The United Nations has declared that internet connection is a human right.
Oh, it's a human right.
Access to the internet is a human right because it connects everybody.
Well, there you go.
I was surprised to read that.
They're making my point for me. How many of you heard the story of the 100th monkey? Raise your hand.
For what?
Okay, I guess I should share with you. The way I understand it is sometime in the point of history, over 50 years ago, they were studying rhesus monkeys on these islands. And people were observing the behaviors of these monkeys. And they happened to notice that one of the monkeys, they were throwing out sweet potatoes to feed them. And one of the monkeys realized that when he picked up a sweet potato, if he went over to the water and washed it off, he could eat it without all the sand and gunk all around it. And he did that, and they noticed that was an unusual behavior. And the next thing you know, he does it again and again. The next thing you know, his brothers and sisters are doing it. And within a short amount of time, all the monkeys on the island were doing the same thing. Makes sense, right? They all figured out and watch each other. But something miraculous happened. On another island, after about 100 monkeys were doing this on another island, they began to do the same thing. And they didn't text each other or send an internet or a picture of them feeding but that's the story. You can find it on the internet. Some people debunk the story, but I like to believe it's true. So this represents the atom, and if you know anything about the atom in quantum physics, they are now having a tough time understanding what's going on, because when they separate the particles of the atom and they turn it or change it in any manner, no matter how far apart the other particles are that they're entangled with, and these atoms are entangled with each other, they alter themselves at a distance, and they do it on their own. And it's freaking the scientists out. They don't understand how this works. But what it's doing, to me, in my opinion, this is proving our connectedness. This is just science itself, finding how that we are connected. And if you don't know anything about these stories, you can go look them up on the internet. Okay. All right, I want to talk about this part up here. Don't pay attention to this part down here at this part. Who am I? The observer. We've got the world, mankind with his ego. So, Dr. Hawkins teaches in the book that reality is not what we observe, it's the observer is our reality. We are the reality because we're the observer. It's not what we perceive, it's the fact that we are the ones making the perception. That is reality, is what he refers to it as. So that's what I want to point out. So we're going to, how many of you are aware of your observer versus your ego? Raise your hand. Okay, let me just talk about that real briefly here. Have you ever found yourself doing something or maybe telling a story or engaged in something, and all of a sudden you are observing yourself doing it? I know there are times in my life when I'll be talking, just like I am right now. I'm sitting here talking to you, but there's a part of me that's back here going, you're in this room with all these people staring at you, and they really do love you. And you know, I mean, I'm having this other experience here because I'm perceiving what's happening. And that's the observer in me, and some people refer to the observer as the higher self, or some people call it the spirit. You could say spirit within us, you know. And then there's the ego part of us, which wants to play out all the drama, wants to believe in all that's going on in the world. So we're going to move over to this guy, and here we see this gentleman here, or this lady, either or, and there's this belief in the illusion of what's outside of us. It's form, and it is a false power, which is called force. I'm going to explain that just a little bit, but basically, what this is representing right here is the fact that when we come into this world, we believe that everything that we're seeing, everything that we're seeing or experiencing is out here. In reality, it's all within us. Do you grasp that?
Yep.
Okay. So true power, it comes from spirit from within us. And that's how it's all manifested through that. So what we see out here in this world is part of the illusion, but yet we are creating that illusion within us.
I don't get it.
Okay?
Say it again, please.
Say it again?
Please, say more about that.
Okay. Ditto. Let me ask the question. Ask the question.
I just need you to repeat what you just said.
Okay. Going back to what I said earlier about the fact that everything that really is reality to us comes from within us. It's our perception of observing what is. Okay? We have a tendency to believe that when things happen out here in the world, that they're happening to us. That we are becoming victims of the situation, what's going on. And the truth of it is, we're not the victims, and that's what we're going to get into today. That's where I'm heading in this, okay? Does that help understand me
Yeah.
a little bit? Okay. Question?
I think I have a small example that might,
A small example?
on a very, very low and basic level. There's a story of someone walking into a dark shed, and they're opening it up,
and they jump back because there's this snake right there, and they're so afraid that they reach over and they turn on the light, and it's a coil of rope. And I think you're talking about the perception, and that is the belief in the illusion. Is that right?
Now, let's say the snake was real. It's still just a snake, is what it is. Within ourselves, we're saying it's something that's going to harm us. Something within us says that, and so we have to perceive what that really is. Is it really danger or not? So it all goes back to perception. I hope I'm not losing something. I'm assuming that most of you are grasping this or have some. In fact, everything I'm going to be sharing with you, I'm sure there's like little lights are going to come on in areas in your mind, and you already know some of the stuff. And some of it will just be quickened by the Spirit, you know. And so, anyway, that's what this is what Dr. Hawkins is saying, and which I believe that everything out here is just form, and we project into it. We give it meaning, whatever it may be. And some form is a complete illusion, which I'm able to do as a magician. That's what I do. I create illusions, and it's not real, but it's fun, fun to look at, fun to enjoy. Okay, so power versus force.